Good morning. I'm Harley Schlanger from the Larouche organization with your daily video update for June 14th, 2023. Well, it's probably bad enough for the transatlantic leaders that their much hyped and heavily funded Ukraine counteroffensive seems to be making very little progress other than adding to the casualty figures for the people of Ukraine. But while sending out the cold-blooded peddler of their rules-based order, Secretary of State Blinken, to push his delusional view of a global fight for liberal democracy, perhaps they should look more closely at the reception he's getting. The latest effort, his trip to Saudi Arabia, where he tried to pull the Saudis back under the Anglo-American leadership umbrella, should be seen as another one of his failures. He tried to convince the Saudis to back away from collaboration with China. Well, it didn't work. There are concerns, serious concerns in the West about the move by the Saudis and others to accept the yuan, the Chinese currency, for oil and other goods, as the yuan is becoming a convertible alternative to the dollar. But there's also their disappointment with the rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia under British geopolitical doctrine, maintaining conflicts, especially regional conflicts by nations which should be able to work together, is one of the keys to sustaining their world order. And the negotiations that went on between Riyadh and Tehran, brokered by the Chinese, overturns the attempt to keep the Shiites and the Sunni world at each other's throats. Also, there's the development around the cut in oil production by the Saudis, done in cooperation with their OPEC Plus partner, Russia, and against the wishes of Biden and the Americans. When the Saudi energy minister, Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman, was asked for his response to Western criticism of Saudi coordination with Beijing, he replied bluntly, "I totally ignore it," unquote. So this is an example of the kind of reception that Blinken is getting, because he was just in Saudi Arabia where he was trying to strong-arm them to bring them back into the alliance. Now, it's not just Blinken who's facing rejection. His sidekick, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the European Commission, was in Brazil, and she was pushing Brazil's President Lula to support the so-called peace plan of Zelensky. That is, NATO's plan for permanent war against Russia to the last Ukrainian, with the Orwellian idea that war is somehow peace. Well, Lula responded, quote, "There is no military solution to this conflict," unquote. He called instead for a diplomatic solution, not just in Ukraine, but in Yemen, and for resolving the Palestinian issue. He told von der Leyen, quote, "The fundamental principles of international law must be valid for everyone," unquote. In other words, not your phony rules-based order, but agreed upon principles of international law, which Blinken, von der Leyen, and their ilk despise. Now, also in Brazil was Annalena Baerbock, the lamentable foreign minister of Germany, who lectured the Brazilians that they should be less concerned with the price of food that they're trying to afford to put on their table than with funding the Ukraine war. At least Marie Antoinette told them, let them eat cake. She's saying, don't even eat the beans and rice you need. You have to contribute to the war first. Now, what this tells you is that the support for the global South for the rules-based order has collapsed. And the commitment to this rules-based order, which is run by those who carry out coups, assassinations, and wars to enable them to benefit, that their right to make the rules is being contested by an emerging group of nations which Sergei Lavrov is referring to as the global majority. And by sending out Blinken to try to strong-arm them, it's clearly not working. He's not a very convincing salesman. Now, as to those such as Blinken and the brain-dead analysts of the unipolar order think tanks of the Atlantic Council, Chatham House, the World Economic Forum, who claim they have successfully isolated Russia with their sanctions and their war policy, they should check out the attendance at the annual St. Petersburg International Economic Forum underway in St. Petersburg. Over 100 nations are represented there and making deals with Russians that are along the lines of real economic production, trading goods and moving again toward an alternative to the dollar. Again, back to the Saudis, there's the Arab-China Business Conference, which had over 2,000 attendees. Trade between Arab nations and China went up 31% in 2022 compared to 2021. And at this conference, many billion-dollar deals are being signed, or perhaps billion yuan deals are being signed. This conference was addressed by Dilma Rousseff, who's the president of the New Development Bank of the BRICS. And her message was that China and Saudi Arabia can, quote, rewrite the rules of the global energy market, leading the way in diversifying currencies and embracing new models of economic collaboration, unquote. New rules, not the tired, old, failed rules of Blinken's rules-based order. And what her speech reflects is the move away from those nations in the global south, from the colonial past. Now, all of this confirms Helga Zepp Larouche's prescience in putting forward the adoption or the need for the adoption of a new strategic and development architecture to replace the collapsing rules-based order pushed by Blinken and others, which can only be enforced by deploying weapons of warfare produced by the West's military-industrial complex, and is only accepted where media cartels and the platforms of big tech censorship keep people in the dark and attack those who oppose them as information terrorists and agents of Putin. This is the shape of things to come, this battle, not the battle in Ukraine to try to sustain a proxy war to bleed Russia, but move toward a new era of trade without currencies that Lyndon LaRouche talked about, where national currencies based on something real replace the funny money that's put out by the central banks of the West and the International Monetary Fund. This is the new era, and it's an era which is very attractive to young people who don't see the old period of the imperial order as something that they wish to grow up into. So it's time for all of our viewers to come out of the depressing darkness of the fantasy world of Blinken and Biden, of Sunak and Trudeau, and get into the light of truth and discover that truth through open dialogue and honest debate. And the end of this, the goal of this, is mutual cooperation for mutual benefit. So don't allow yourself or your friends to be Blinken-ized. Now is the time to use the link below to join the Larouche organization and participate in our mobilization to not just end war and poverty, but to create a new era of human progress, which includes exploration at the outer extent of the universe, as well as through optical biophysics and research into the smallest particles that are available, that can be found. This is our future, not one of squabbling over land and identity politics. So thanks for joining me today. I'll see you again tomorrow. Hello, thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our videos. Support our independence to produce videos like these. Become a member of the Larouche organization at thelarouche.org/member. By becoming a member for $25 or more, you'll get special access to the EIR Alert Daily Briefing and weekly magazine, which is what I read to stay on top of things.